All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. I am Sarah Adi Coleman. I'm the director of the Tourism and Marketing Division for the North Dakota Department of Commerce. And we're excited to have you here as part of the Main Street Summit, with tourism being one of the largest contributors to the state's economy and the marketing of the state being so important. We felt it was really important to have a session talking about the data and the new research that we have just done, measuring the image of the state of North Dakota. So the pandemic and the political environment have taught us a lot of things, right? One of which is that we really need to know the facts, and we need to look at data to help drive decisions. This is just imperative if we're going to rebuild our economy going past this 2020 year. So with state and local resources stretched so thin, we really feel that, and we've always been data driven. We did our first research study back in 2002 that measured the impact of our messaging on state image and driving visitation. And we've had a solid research program going forward because we know we have limited dollars and we have to invest those in the best strategies to support not only our tourism businesses, but also the communities that rely so heavily on those businesses. What do people know about North Dakota? Well, we've all heard the stories, right? Nothing. I've never been to North Dakota. I don't know anybody from North Dakota. It's one of the last states or the last state that I've ever been to. So we know that we have a challenge in terms of increasing the awareness of the state. And what we really want to know is how we influence that perception. So to find out what influences that perception, we are bringing in Anna. Anna Bout is she's the director of research. We can do the next slide, please, of Longwoods International, the leading research consultancy in North America, and with their U.S. headquarters in Columbus, Ohio. Their goal is really to get underneath the surface veneer of data, to uncover the real motivators that drive traveler choice and public image, and provide strategic guidance to help destinations evaluate their image, fine-tune their marketing, demonstrate accountability to budget decision makers, and make the most of their marketing dollars, which is exactly why we hired Longwoods. Anna, as the Director of Research Services, has been working with us on kind of a portfolio of advertising that we're doing, research that we're doing this year that involves advertising effectiveness, trying to understand the overall impact, understanding what the image of the state is, how we build on that. And then we're also doing some custom research with them to try and influence how we market our state to the workforce to meet our workforce needs. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Anna.
Great. Thank you so much. So the focus of this presentation is going to be, this part of it is going to be the image study that we did for North Dakota. So I'm going to have to bore you first with a little methodology. I promise I won't read the bullet points. We are testing, we were testing the impact of the image of the 2019 North Dakota campaign. As you all know, it had digital, television, print, and out-of-home elements. We focused on the primary markets right now for 2019 for North Dakota. That would be Chicago, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. So when we did this study, again, just few little boring details. You didn't know as a respondent that this was about North Dakota until the very end when we showed the advertising, right? We ask a whole bunch of questions and we ask it with your competitive set. So we are actually going through and people were able to go and rate for both the leisure travel variables as well as the economic development variables, both of which we're going to cover some in this presentation today. We did this study in June of 2020. It went out to 1,400 respondents, and we're very happy to share that with you. So, as Heather said, one of the aspects that we have on this is that the awareness of your advertising in your key primary markets that I mentioned. As you can see from this pie chart, you're going to see that 47% were aware of at least one advertising that North Dakota played out during 2019. That's a good news and it's a good start. So that's a really good place to start from. So remember when I mentioned that we had a competitive set. The competitive set that we chose for North Dakota, I'm talking to Sarah and Heather, they are Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Manitoba, Minnesota, and Nebraska. So in those markets, the key markets for North Dakota, we asked them a series of statements, and they were asked to say, hey, is North Dakota like this? Is South Dakota like this? Whichever one it is. And we combined all of the competitive set because we wanted to find out what's showing on this slide is, what are the most important aspects of a leisure trip for your key markets, whether they're choosing North Dakota or South Dakota or Manitoba or anybody included in the study. And we call these the travel motivators. They're ranked in the most important to the least important when people are selecting a vacation destination. Okay, so when we're asking this, number one is going to be adult vacation. An adult vacation is something that is a good place for couples, right? It's a good place for a couple retreat. Next, it's exciting, then it's unique, and it has a family atmosphere. So it's also kind of good for kids as well. Then we see in more of a secondary level is that there's good sightseeing opportunities, that it's popular. Everybody wants to be able to brag on Instagram, right? Then that it's worry-free, that it's stress-free. Remember, we did this survey in June of 2020. So I will say that worry-free is most likely going to increase in importance over the next, right now, to the next 6 to 12 months, as people just don't want to have the stress of everything that's going on, and they're looking for a real escape. You can see here entertainment. Even though the next one says sports and recreation, most of the variables that add up to this category are actually you personally doing stuff in the outdoors. So it's more recreation and sport. And the final one here is affordability. I know affordability is super important when you get further down, when you're comparing travel service providers or you're actually selecting and booking travel. But remember, when you're picking a destination, typically in the vacation planning cycle, in the first stages for ideas and inspiration, that's when you're picking the destination. So when people are looking for ways to spend their money, because increasingly, please keep in mind that people are looking for more out of leisure travel than they were in the past, right? It's an investment. Instead of acquiring things, people are making memories with their loved ones, with meeting new people, with experiencing new things and exciting places. They want to have a bank of memories that changes them as a person for the better. So it is an investment for them, and it's more of an investment for them than it ever has been before. So even though affordability does come up later when you're picking the travel service providers, when it comes to going to North Dakota, they're looking for these other things more importantly to pick this as the destination, to pull that trigger and go, I'm going to go to North Dakota. Some of the statements here that round up those categories, these are the top 10. These are the 10 most important leisure statements that align the most with a place I'd really enjoy visiting. So what are these things, these 10 motivators? And again, your advertising can't hit on all of these all the time. It's important to pick the ones that best align with your strategy and the product and offerings of your state. So here, it's fun. It's a good place for an adult vacation. There's so many things to see and do. It's a must-see destination that's exciting. There are unique experiences there. There's real adventure. Kids would also enjoy it. It's popular, and it has excellent vacation value. Please note again, it's not that it's cheap. It has excellent vacation value. People are looking for the most experience for what they spend, but people are still willing to spend for a high-quality experience. So this is the first time that we talk just about North Dakota's results and this image study we did for y'all. And here we have a split. So remember, I told you at the end of the survey, we showed the advertising and we were like, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember this? Not. Okay. We went back through in our analysis and we're like, hey, we want to know what the impact of that advertising campaign was on the image of North Dakota. So the way we did that, this is the key variable in our study, a place I'd really enjoy visiting. Everything is tied back to that in the image leisure statements. And we measured and said, hey, people who are aware of at least one piece of advertising from 2019, how much do they agree that that's North Dakota? 46% very strongly agreed. That's an 8, 9, or 10 on a 10-point scale. But you see people who are unaware of the advertising, it's only 30%. That 16-point difference is going to be the space that advertising made that positive impact. And that is a really great score. We do these studies all the time, and this is a really great lift. This is showing that the advertising is making an impact on increasing North Dakota's image as a leisure destination. Okay. Just like we had the categories before when we were talking about the overall travel motivators, we can talk about that for people who are aware of the advertising versus not. The top green bar on each one of these is going to be people who are aware of North Dakota's advertising. The bottom blue is people who are not. And as you can see, in every single category, people who saw the advertising across the board had a more positive opinion of North Dakota. So it's moving everything. And this is fantastic. This is exactly the pattern that a lot of people would like to see with their reports, but North Dakota just got it because it really, really does. The advertising is having that impact that we want. You can see that for exciting, which is the second most important category variables, there's a 12-point difference between people who are aware of the advertising and people who aren't. And you can also see here that for popular, it's a 15-point difference. And for affordability, it's a 12-point difference. So those are just some of them, but every single one has a significant different variable. Okay, so this is actually an interesting one. So what we're charting here is that space I was telling you about. People who are aware, how they rated it, the percentage of people who rated it favorably versus the people who are unaware and the people who didn't do it favorably. So for instance, when I showed you that 16-point difference for a place I'd really enjoy visiting, it would just be charted as 16 here. So as you can see, all those chevrons you see here in the top 12 that are posted right here, the chevron means it's a hot button. It's one of the top 10 attributes that we really want to consider hitting in our advertising to get along that message to really get people to choose North Dakota. In your top 12, there are 3 already here. An exciting place, it's a 14-point difference. For a must-see destination, for a fun place to vacation, and for a vacation, there is a real adventure, 12-point difference for each. So that means that where it really counts, when we get people to see the advertising, your advertising campaign is absolutely impacting in a positive way the image of North Dakota. Okay, so what's the end result? We want people to be aware of the campaign and we want people to visit. So here we go, and we ask people who took the survey from the key markets, hey, have you ever been to North Dakota? 20% are like, yeah, I've been to 20% I've been to North Dakota on a leisure trip overnight in the last 12 months. And 18% have been on a day leisure trip. Why is it so important that we get people there even for the first time? This is a slide from Travel USA, Longwood's very long-running American domestic trip tracking study. This just kind of shows you that when we get people to North Dakota, not only are they going to keep coming back and back and back, they are very, very satisfied with what they see. On the right-hand side of this slide talks about repeat visitation. So everybody in this study, and again, our visitation study, we asked them, hey, if you went to North Dakota overnight, have you ever been before ever? And you're going to see here, yeah, the majority have. The majority have also been to North Dakota in the last 12 months. So you have strong repeat visitation. Why do you have strong repeat visitation? It's because it's an amazing experience for people when they get there. And that's shown on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, we talk about satisfaction. On this one, we used a Likert scale. A Likert scale is a 5-point scale. For you to be rated on here, you had to be 5 out of 5. I was highly satisfied. Look at this, 70 over, we have 70%, 7 and 10. They were highly satisfied overall with the quality of the trip. And you can see here again, the majority here, that people were really friendly, they felt safe, and they felt secure. Those are 2 variables that are increasingly important as we recover from COVID. You're already hitting them. People who actually get there, they understand how great North Dakota is and how safe and worry-free it truly is as a destination. Also here is cleanliness, and it's over at 57%. Over half of people who already go to North Dakota, they realize how clean and wonderful the state is. That's another very important variable for people who are looking for places to go outside of COVID. So we want to have more people see the advertising so we can get that person to go the one time. And when they go the one time, the evidence is here. They're going to come again, and they're going to come again. And so that's the real exciting thing. The more people we can convert, those people become our brand ambassadors, and they come back as well. So this is one, even though it has the same colors, it's a little bit different. So this is going to compare. The top green row is people who have visited North Dakota in the last 2 years. The bottom blue row is people who've never visited. We call that the product impact. So when I go to North Dakota, what do I think of North Dakota if I've never ever been before? Again, it's even stronger performance here. People who have been to North Dakota understand that it's high quality as a leisure destination across the board. You can see here that the differences are profound. There is an 18-point difference between people who have gone versus not on being a worry-free destination. There's a 17-point difference in an adult vacation, which is the most important variable we have. For a family atmosphere, it's a 24-point difference. That's insane. That's 24-point difference is actually the highest, is the biggest difference I've seen on these variables for product in the time that I've been doing these studies. So it's immense. When we get people to North Dakota, they love it. It's so positive, and the more people who go, they can tell their friends and family about the great experience they had too. And we can get more people in there as well to support the fantastic advertising you're doing. Okay, this is where we're going to move on to what we call the halo effect of tourism advertising. So I am going to bore you with our theory of that from Longwoods, which we pioneered. The idea of North Dakota tourism advertising is this. I am telling people very honestly that North Dakota is a fantastic place to visit. There's great people. There's so many different things to see or do. It is not a flyover. It is not a blank place. There are so many experiences that you can have here. You're going to love it and you're going to really enjoy yourself. So please give us a try. That tourism advertising is impacting the image of the state and other variables as well. And what we're saying by that is this, is that I go to North Dakota. It's fantastic. My kid starts thinking about, I want to go to college in North Dakota. I come back again on vacation. Maybe I want to get a second house. Maybe I want to move there. Maybe I want to start a business there. Maybe I want to retire there. People, if they really love a place, many people want to have a more long-standing permanent relationship with that place. And that is the halo effect of tourism. So we do measure this traditionally on a few variables. And for this study for North Dakota, we added some more that were based more just on recruitment. So here are the traditional halo effect study variables. So this is aware of the advertising on the top green bars. The bottom blue bar is unaware of the advertising. Look at the spread, it's insane. So again, we're gonna say a good place to live, 37% of people who are aware of in your travel markets who are aware of your advertising said, yeah, it looks like it'd be a great place to live. 36%, a great place to attend college. You can see the gaps here. For a good place to go to college, there's a 15-point gap between people who are aware of your advertising versus people who weren't. When people are actually looking at your advertising, you're not just starting to convince them of how great it is to visit. You're starting to convince themselves that, hey, more people can see themselves in North Dakota. The same thing here. These are the expanded ones that we did custom just for North Dakota. And these focus more on ideas about recruitment, right? And so we asked people who were just aware of the advertising versus not aware. And we asked them, hey, what do you think about North Dakota with this? And you'll see here, every time, significantly greater. People had a more positive impression of North Dakota as a place to live and work than if they saw the advertising that Sarah and the team have been doing versus people who hadn't. A place with a promising economic future is 39%. That's 11 points higher than people who are not aware of the advertising. A place with a strong and expanding job market. 37%, again, 11 points higher than people who aren't. And it continues, goes down and goes down and goes down. It is important to know that once you get in the forefront of mind, a really important one we included here that I really enjoy talking about is that I'd recommend moving here to friends and family. 29% of people who saw the advertising, they actually were like, yeah, absolutely, I would do that, compared to only 13% who hadn't. So not only are people thinking about North Dakota more when they see your advertising for themselves, they're thinking about it for their friends and family. So it's not just the impact that's having on the people who are seeing the advertising, it's the impact that they're telling their friends and family about. Okay. We also show this one comparing recent visitors, which is visiting in the last 2 years, versus people who have never been. It's even a more dramatic spread here. I mean, look at this. It's just insane. A place with a promising economic future, we now go to 51% for people who have been to North Dakota. It's only 32% for people who've never visited. I've seen job opportunities located here. So it's kind of like when you buy a car and all of a sudden, all you kind of see on the interstate is cars that are like your car. Once you're in the mindset, the ads that are out there, they were seeing them before, but they remember them now. They have an impact now. They're more likely to act on them now when they've actually been to North Dakota because they can see themselves living there. You're at 52% here compared to 22% of people who have never been. So, I mean, the impact here is clear. This is an amazing impact of both the advertising and then the visitation that the advertising helps spur. So this is the kind of theory that we have here going with the information we've presented for you today. It starts out with advertising awareness. We get those ads to the people in your key markets, and we encourage them to give North Dakota a try, to come and visit. Then they visit, they become brand ambassadors because your product absolutely is aligning. From our study, it proves it. It's aligning with your product offering, and you deliver where you say you're going to deliver because you have the product to support it, which is fantastic. The people who go, they have a great experience. They become your brand ambassadors. That expands North Dakota's image, and that makes talent recruitment so much easier because when people can put a visual image and an experience with a state, with a city, with a region in North Dakota, they're much more likely to consider moving there and to having a more permanent relationship with the state. So it's all tied together in the theory of attraction, right? And it does start with that advertising, that tourism advertising, and getting that in front of the right eyes. So there are things that we can definitely work on for North Dakota. And again, remember the competitive set I discussed with you. This is for the key variable. The header isn't showing, unfortunately, sorry. It's for the variable, a place I'd really enjoy visiting. You can see you have a very competitive set. Some of these, including South Dakota, have very large budgets that you're competing against. You can see that 38% of total of everybody in the survey said, hey, North Dakota is a place I'd really enjoy visiting. That compares to 50% of more for Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota. The key here is that you do have the product. The problem is raising awareness and getting more visitation to increase that cycle we're talking about. That is a good problem to have. You cannot create product. It's very hard to do that. That you already have the experiences, but just getting more people aware of those experiences. We're going to highlight South Dakota here for a second. I'm sorry, we'll do the overall image for this. So this is where we're talking about for the breakdown of the bars. The light blue bar on the top is going to be the North Dakota ratings. The dark blue bar on the bottom is the combined competitors. And as you can see, in some of the areas you're very equal or competitive, such as affordability, entertainment, being worry-free, and some sightseeing. You'll see for adult vacation, which is the most important variable for people in your key markets who are looking to take a leisure trip, you are a little behind. You're 7 points behind. Unfortunately, that difference is significant. But again, this is an issue of just making more people aware of what your state has to offer. You do not have a lacking of product. It's just a lacking of enough awareness. But you do have a very competitive set, and some of those people do have very large budgets. So just like we measured before, the difference between aware versus unaware, this is the percentage of people who said positively this statement about North Dakota versus South Dakota. The reason that it's in orange and it's charted on the right-hand side is that it's negative. It means that this is the space between South Dakota and us right now. You'll see here a lot of chevrons, unfortunately. Must-see destinations, there's a 15-point deficit. Lots of things to see and do, and also popular with vacationers, a 14-point deficit. Unique vacation experiences and a vacation that there is a real adventure, also a deficit. You can see more here. Again, at least it's not in the double digits. Before I worked at Longwoods International, I did work at MMGY Global, and one of my first research jobs there was I was involved in branding for South Dakota for a refresher of the branding. And one thing I can tell you is that when South Dakota, even though they have a larger budget, they're also very focused. They're focused on one step to the next step to the next step. And for me, what I've come from this, and because of Sarah's her great expertise, I'm really interested in knowing from Sarah, like if there's one area that we can really focus on to elevate the image of North Dakota, what would that area actually be? Sarah's on, your camera's off. There you go.
I had full screen and I couldn't find them anywhere. We're all learning. Every day it's a different format, a different tool, but we're getting pretty good at this, right?
Yes.
No, thank you so much for that. And I think that that's really important too, because as we're at the Main Street Initiative, we know we're hearing lots and lots of great ideas and different different strategies and different focuses for our communities. But at the end of the day, we only have so many people and so much energy and so much money, right? So I think it's really important that we all think about what are those good investments and how do we really broaden the benefit from the investments that we have. And when you think about investing in umbrella marketing, we talked a little bit about this at some of the sessions yesterday. You think about how that really does benefit, communities. It benefits the state as a whole. It benefits communities because of the dollar flow, not just to the businesses that impact the citizens, but also the government, because that's the dollars that flow into the coffers that help sustain, again, government services as well as those businesses. So yeah, I guess I'd love to open it up for questions on the floor too, if other people have ideas. But I think at this point, what we all need to think about is what is that best investment? Because we know dollars are going to be tighter than ever as we go forward and through this downturn, we're going to call it. We're going to try to avoid some of those negative words, right? And what can make the biggest impact, in terms of overall elevation for the image. So I'm going to open it up. Does anybody have any questions that they would want to put into the chat at this time? I think we do have a few minutes before the next session, so we'd be happy to answer any of those questions. All right, I'm not seeing a whole lot more. So Anna, in your experience, and this is we don't want you to go beyond what you're comfortable with, but in your experience with South Dakota as they were looking at their branding and evolution of their marketing campaign, anything jump out at you that you think they really do a good job of that we could focus on?
The one thing I think everyone notices that South Dakota focuses on is actually Mount Rushmore. I think, yes. They have the characters, they put them on social media, they put them on, the Good Morning America and things like that. So the theory of that is kind of like how India does the Taj Mahal, where this is the Taj Mahal and then we kind of have other stuff too. There's a great back and forth about that, because if you just say Mount Rushmore, you don't know if that's going to get enough people into the thing, but they're kind of like, this is our big thing and we're going to stick to it. But the one thing I will say about that campaign, and one thing that they are concerned about with it, is this really reflect the diversity that's in the state? You know what I mean? Is this really going to be reflective of it? So, I realize that North Dakota doesn't have a Mount Rushmore. So one thing I would take from that is that you have an opportunity to actually really like in the different vignettes that you're showing visually, the amazing depth and breadth of the different climates, the different geologies, the different geographies, all the different kind of experiences that are actually in North Dakota that people really wouldn't know about. And that elevates you. That elevates you because, when people come to North Dakota, they have no idea how much high-tech stuff is going on, how amazing your universities are, that there are so many areas that are just really intellectually buzzing and amazing. There's so many great technologies and things like that. And that adds to the people that are there as well. It's not just a flyover state. There's so much depth and breadth to the state that you really enjoy going to eat where the locals eat, because you can start having these conversations with them that are so meaningful. And again, remember, when we go on trips now, it's an investment. I want these interactions with locals that are meaningful to me. I want to be able to be more expanded as a person. It's an investment in me and my family and my friends who I'm going on the trip with. So I would definitely say that I would take advantage of one thing South Dakota is not able to do, which is to really show what you got in your advertising.
That's a really good point, because it's a blessing and a curse, right? We don't have the one icon, which is why that question mark was on the map that we showed earlier, so that people have that one identifiable thing that they really think about when they think of North Dakota. But it's a blessing in that allows us to market the entire state and show the diversity of offerings that we have. I think most are surprised when they look at the tourism, our TSA, which is how we measure the economic impact of travel and tourism industry on the state, that we actually attract a lot more revenue to the state than South Dakota does. And part of that is because of the diversity that we have, and both seasonality and different niches and statewide. So yeah, blessing and a curse, but it is.
You're more than a monument, and that's fantastic.
There we go. There's our new slogan. We're more than a monument.
You're more than a monument.
Love it. So
we have a question in the chat about, does the Theodore Roosevelt Library have the potential to become that kind of icon? Theodore Roosevelt is a very popular past president. He did some very great things with the environment and things like that, so he still is. I would caution on the fact that for a lot of people might not know that anything about past presidents, that it is for a group of people that's really important and something I would definitely love to do. But when you have that one kind of thing, and again, South Dakota goes back and forth on this as well. Some people don't want to see Mount Rushmore either. You know what I mean? So trying to have that attraction where you get the most of your target travelers that are the best fit that you've determined through your study and your historical perspective, that are the best people to come in who will spend the most money and have the most positive impact. Definitely think about that larger picture and then pick those things for you that are most representative of all the different kinds of things. That's another thing with South Dakota. People don't just want to go for one thing. Like I told you, it's an investment. Leisure travel is a total investment. You got to hit on different registers. That's the great thing about what Sarah and your team, you're doing with your advertising, as you saw from the lift that are awareness. People are watching your advertising, even though it's not designed to increase it. They think more positively overall. You're hitting on all the registers, and that's what's going to get more people to visit.
I think that's a great question about the library, and I think yes, when you think of a library, presidential library, there's certain people that are going to attract to that. But I think what will determine whether or not that can be one of the pillars, and it may not be the icon, but maybe it's a pillar. And I think ideally, when we think of tourism development across the state, we would develop pillars throughout the state so that we, again, could keep people for these diverse experiences. But what's going to determine whether or not that's a pillar will be how they activate that space and the programming that they're able to offer throughout the year that will attract not just the traditional person who would go to a presidential library. And I'm excited about that because I think there is some potential for that, for sure. So thanks for the question, Kyle.
I love going because I love Teddy Roosevelt, so I would be super excited to go. I would love to go to the presidential library there. Just saying. But I'm from Florida, so y'all have like way more like culture and great things to do than I do. So I'm very envious.
Well, and I think the other thing that, being that we marketed outdoor, safe, free, worry, wide open spaces, follow your curiosity, not the crowds. That was before the pandemic. So we kind of own that space, and not that our regional competitors don't as well, but at least we aren't reinventing ourselves. You've got other states that are reinventing themselves who have sold their communities and their metro and all of that's what they've sold for decades. And now all of a sudden they're a great outdoor destination too. So I think there's another question. Is there a secret, and this is to you, Anne, is there a secret that some locations know or have when it comes to capitalizing on their halo awareness?
A recommendation that I would make is I actually think a good state that actually did a study with us a couple years ago, Minnesota did actually a video that they put onto YouTube, which is the reason I'm allowed to talk about it. It was very public. And they actually interspace the findings, the solid findings we have about the halo with interviews with business owners who've actually gone into their state. So I think that that's a really positive thing you can do is that the best thing about data is interesting, but sometimes data kind of puts people off, right? The personal narratives and stories. Y'all all know people who have moved to North Dakota. North Dakota is a great magnet for great talented and skilled workers and industries and is building. And it's even like through this unfortunate time right now, that's going to pass and it's going to continue right back where it is. There's a great future ahead of you economically. And we're going to get to all the great growth that we are already having, especially with the younger demographics that were moving to the state and being a permanent part of your state. Interspacing that with personal stories that people can relate to. That way people can say, hey, I lived in the state next door in North Dakota, and this guy moved and started a business, and he loves it. I can do that too. People can see themselves in other people's stories.
Mm-hmm. So I think about it as I kind of kicked off the session and we talked a little bit about how, I don't know anybody from North Dakota. Well, that's part of the problem, right? We have fewer ambassadors running around the world touting, plus we're all, Scandinavian Germans. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us are, which we hate to brag and boast. And so I really do think that part of the reason, that people don't know anything about us is, number one, we lack the people who are the voice boxes, right, to spread the word, but also, of course, that paid image. I think it was Eric Severide who said that people were a blank spot, or it might have been Tom Brokaw. One of them said that North Dakota, it's not that we have a negative image, it's just that you have you're kind of a blank spot. People are like, well, yeah, it's up there by Canada, right? They just don't know. So good opportunities for sure.
Absolutely. Again, your product matches your advertising, and it does have that wonderful experience. There are people looking for the depth and breadth of their leisure travel. Many destinations do not have that. They overpromise on their advertising, and they don't deliver on the product experience. And the great thing about what's happening in North Dakota is you have both together. And again, to your long-term authenticity about the wide open places, the cleanliness, the safeness, y'all have been saying that again. It's, you can go back in time. You have the honesty behind that has been your long-time position, because it's the truth. So there's an authenticity there you can't fake.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Do we have any last call for any questions anybody has? Don't see any coming into the chat. Oh, here we go. Here's one. Do Native American experiences have the potential to become a pillar attraction for North Dakota? I would say yes. I think on the awareness slide, that was where we did exceed our competitors. That was one product development, and I'm not sure if we showed that slide or not. But that was one area that we definitely, can rank above our competitive set on. I know, especially in the global marketing arena, that's kind of our pillar. Because we market with our competitive set on there. So we market along with North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. And everybody kind of has their portfolio, so to speak, but the Native American experience is definitely what sets us apart in terms of the product development, because we have great experiences that are available, that have authentic voices telling those stories and helping people experience that. So I think for sure it has the potential to be a pillar. Would you agree, Anna?
Absolutely. And to Sarah's point, where she so eloquently put that very well, travelers want authentically local experiences. They want to experience things that are unique to a place. Your Native American culture is so long going and deep in the space, and it means so much to people to be able to experience it for themselves and to be able to interact with different people and really learn about a culture. It has that amazing amount of authenticity. Again, I live in Orlando. We have no authenticity like that, and I find that means I make it even incredibly more profound for me. So that 100% is a fantastic strength North Dakota has, and something that completely and totally, yes, absolutely. I think that it's already a pillar, and it can only become more so.
Be interesting to see how these trends continue, with the trends that we're seeing, and we'll see that in our next session. But it will be interesting to see if the cycles have just kind of changed. I mean, I don't think people bought RVs to use them for one summer, right? I mean, I think people are going to be using those and experiencing travel differently for decades. We have another question. Are craft breweries and wineries a way to market to the adult audience, to market to the adult audience to North Dakota? That's a great question, Dwayne. I think those are great amenities, and for sure, if we can tell more of those stories, it rounds off that experience. People may not come just for the wineries, because we probably don't, we probably haven't won the awards, or we're not prominently known for that, but it will add to the experiences that they can do here, which will help motivate some of those adult vacations.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Anna?
Yeah, keep in mind too, with the craft brewery explosion that's happened in the last 10 years, and then, the different kinds of the expansion of wineries at the same time, and the gastropubs with the actual foodie movement. The foodie movement has also gone into actually alcoholic drinks to a certain level as well. It's not just adult, is what I'm trying to say. It's not the traditional wine train, right? That was in Napa Valley and stuff. More people, if they find it acceptable to bring their children into gastropubs, they find it acceptable to bring that. So it's not, you don't have to see it. It is primarily adult activity, but some of those that have a little bit of a family-friendly atmosphere, people are not they are not hesitant to expose it, especially if they have delicious food there as well. It's more socially acceptable to bring your kids into that situation.
Good point. Well, I am not seeing any more questions in the chat. And if there's one thing that's been hard to get used to with all the Zoom and team meetings that we have all the time is that they overlap. Usually there's never even time to run, get a glass of water, or run to the restroom. So we're going to give you a gift of 5 minutes, or actually 10 minutes. We're going to end 5 minutes early, so you've got a few minutes in between the next sessions. But with that, I would love to thank Anna again. I know she's playing double duty today because the Travel and Tourism Research Association Marketing Outlook Forum is going on right now as well. So she's presenting to that group as well. So thanks again for being here, Anna, and thanks everybody for joining us.
Bye.
Take care. Also, we will have the information that we will post on the tourism or on the industry section of ndtourism.com. So you can look for that later today or tomorrow if you would like the information and slides. Thanks, everybody. See you at the next session.
Bye.